Hey everybody, Coach Brew here. I am struggling with some technical difficulties on the web stream. I had to move from one link to another. So if you're finding this through another link or another source other than the link I sent you, my apologies. If you don't find it at all, my apologies. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the replay available for everybody since we had some technical difficulties, and we'll take it from there. So I realize we're not going to have probably quite the crowd that we thought we would for this. I'm operating off of two different devices trying to make this work, and it's just not working on the device I needed it to. So we had to move to another one, but nonetheless, we shall persevere like we are through this pandemic and through social distancing, doing this virtually. And yeah, that's how we're going to roll here today. So I've got some strategies for you, and I've got a couple stories that I think will really inspire you, as opposed to give you any sort of sense of doom and gloom like the media is giving you. Just trying to pull my notes over here. And really what I wanted to start off with was, we'll get into the Q&A. I appreciate everybody's questions you submitted. But what I wanted to start off with was simply a couple stories that I think will inspire you, and a couple strategies that I think will be a great resource to you as you move forward navigating this. And when I say navigating this, I don't think it's going to be a 1 or a 2 week thing. I think we're looking at potentially 60 to 90 days. And I say 60 to 90 days because there are a lot of unknowns. I am not an immunologist. I'm not an MD. I don't play one on TV. So I'm not going to pretend to think I know exactly what's going on. I just know two things. If we're not careful, we're going to run out of hospital beds. And we've pretty much already run out of, or are close to running out of, tests for COVID-19, the coronavirus. So we're dealing with that too. So I think, fasten your seatbelts. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're not running on flat surface. There's going to be peaks and valleys. And my goal today is to kind of brace you for and prepare you for some of these peaks and valleys. And the best way I can do that is by giving you some actionable strategies. I had mentioned this on a Facebook Live to some of my audience. This whole situation reminds me a lot of 9/11. And what I mean by that isn't, this isn't terrorism. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But what I think is happening is we're a country in crisis right now. And there are a lot of people being reactive. That's what about this reminds me of 9/11. Airplanes aren't flying. You look up in the sky, you're not going to see planes flying. It's just kind of like September 11th, September 12th, 2001. A lot of people aren't going out. Business is kind of ground to a halt. People aren't even taking meetings, really. So in that regard, it reminds me of that. People are sitting around like zombies, a lot of them. Self-medicating, drugs, alcohol, television, Netflix, whatever it might be, taking just a real passive, reactive posture to things. Other people, I hope I'm not describing any of you watching this, but other people are really just kind of allowing themselves to be put in a state of anxiety by, I call it fear porn, what the media sells. The media sells fear. And, part of their whole business model is selling fear. If it bleeds, it leads, on the news and in the headlines in the paper and on websites. And it's really kind of like fear porn, like food porn. People become addicted to, videos of food and cooking shows and things like that. Pictures of food. Well, they're selling fear. It's just a different sort of addiction. There are people who won't stay off their social media feed. They won't stop listening to the radio. Constantly have the news going on TV in the background. That does not serve you well. So I would encourage you that if you're doing that, or someone in your home is doing that, you find a way to redirect yourself or redirect their behavior. to something more proactive and something that won't instill anxiety, fear, depression in you. And the big thing I want to get across to you right now, today, is simply the fact that crisis creates opportunity. The title of this video is From Adversity to Advantage, Navigating the New Normal. And I do believe, at least for a while, what we're experiencing is going to be the new normal. How long? I don't know, but for a while. And how you navigate it is going to be critically important. Crisis creates opportunity. And if you think about it, every single crisis has an equal seed of opportunity. For example, even when we die, and I don't mean to be morbid, I'm not referring to dying from the coronavirus. I'm just referring to death in general. A funeral home will be paid a fee. A casket company will make money. Urn companies, cremation services, cemetery plots will be sold. Hospitals will be busy. Morgues, caterers, the list goes on. Florists. In every crisis, there is a business opportunity for somebody somewhere. And this is no different. And that was never made more abundantly clear to me. Like, I got smacked upside the head with, like, wow, what a perspective shift. Last Wednesday night, not 2 days ago, but a week prior, I was out to dinner. After I teach a night class at the local college, and after class, I like to stop for dinner at local bar and grill. And I was just sitting there, and somebody bought me a drink. The waitress just handed me a drink and said, "Here, this is for you." I said, "What's this?" And she said, "There's a gentleman at the bar who's buying the house around." And I thought, wow, that was really generous. And then I realized there are only like 4 of us in the whole facility. So yeah, like, if there's a time to buy, I'd like to buy the house around the drinks, it's when there are 4 people in the restaurant. But anyway, because there are only 4 of us, I just looked over at him and I said, "Hey, thanks. What are we celebrating?" And he explained to me he and his wife were out celebrating the fact that his business had just landed the cleaning contract for the whole State University in New York system. I'm up here in Maine, which is not close to New York. It's not a drive, it's a flight. But anyway, that's 27 college campuses, university campuses. It's not even including all the community colleges in a fairly large state with a real robust public education system. So he's got the contract to clean, all the dorms, libraries, administrative buildings, athletic facilities, everything, you name it. To now that they've cleared out from the coronavirus and everyone's kind of on lockdown, back at home, even college kids. And I just got to thinking, there's the perfect example of that. Crisis creates opportunity. I mean, it's a shining example. And it just made me start to think more about the people in my membership community, how I could help them navigate some murky waters, some uncharted waters right now, my readers, my coaching clients. And, I think the biggest thing I can do immediately is give you some perspective. So I've got people messaging me and texting me. Hang on, Siri is trying to tell me something. So again, like, this is just if the replay will be available for everyone. People just need to go to my YouTube channel. Sorry. So I think a dose of reality and a little bit of a wake-up call is perhaps the first best thing I can do for you. And so let's put on our big boy and our big girl pants. Time for a little real talk. Okay. If you're not a healthcare provider, you're not working in a lab, working to create a vaccine, serving as part of the relief effort, if you're literally not in a hands-on role helping people who are already infected with this virus, you need to get your ass in gear and work on your business. build your business, reinvent your business in some cases. This is not a 2-week vacation. My kids are out of school for 2 weeks, but it's not a 2-week vacation. Not for them, not for anybody, not for parents, certainly not for parents. I think you all agree with me on that. But your business still has to operate, especially if you're self-employed. Sure, you can't go take physical meetings, but there are other things you can do. For example, you can pick up your phone, you can send handwritten notes, letters, you can create an email newsletter. And if you haven't created a mailing list, physical and digital, now is the time to do it while you have extra free time on your hands. Publish articles, create a podcast, videos like what I'm doing right now, a webinar for prospects or clients, video conferences for your team, your organization, your department, whatever it might be, your community. I was just on a really cool video conference last night. It's kind of like a virtual happy hour. A bunch of entrepreneurs in my network got together via Zoom, which is like Skype, but better. And, we just kind of held a Q&A, brainstorming, answered questions for each other, and all had a drink. I had a quarantini, which is a martini, but you drink it all by yourself. So anyway, I think that you, first and foremost, need to take a proactive posture, a proactive stance in what you're doing, and be on offense. If there are coaches listening to this, it's a great opportunity. I just did an interview for College Recruiting Weekly podcast. I'll share with you what I shared with them. This is a great opportunity for you to model the behavior you want to see from your team, your business team, your sports team, whatever team it is, your home team. This is a great opportunity for you to model the behavior you want to see from your family while you're at home with them in close confines. So what do you want to see? Do you want to see them being reactive, or do you want to see them being proactive? You want to see them sitting around and watching TV, watching Netflix, or do you want to see them learning, making good use of their time, maximizing the opportunity they have right now? Which do you want to see? And I think you know the answer. You want to see them do positive things. So you need to model that behavior, okay? What do you want to see from them? Show it yourself. So I'll start by giving you an example. A great example you can take a cue from. I have often talked to you all about the personal trainer that I see. His name's Shelby Turcott. He runs a business called Shelby Trained. And I see him every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Well, obviously, with the pandemic and a lot of closures, his training facility is closed. So what has he done? He's reached out both electronically and personally over the phone and explained the situation to each of his clients. What he has also done is he's offered access to a virtual training platform and online lessons. He has an app. And he's also offered to have you, if you would like to stop by the facility, you can pick up some exercise bands and a mat or a foam roll, whatever you need. If you're unable to travel there, they will deliver it to you. Think about that. Think about that level of service, and that's an in-person business that has had to create a very quick, dramatic paradigm shift, change their business model. And that's being proactive. That's not being reactive. They have a plan A. If the quarantine ends immediately, the facility will be cleaned. They'll go back to business as usual. They have a plan B. They have a plan C, a plan D, a plan E. I met up with his business partner, his assistant, Kayla Rose, and I was dropping something off to her, and she was bringing me exercise straps or exercise elastic bands. And she explained to me they have 5 different contingency plans depending on how everything shakes out with the government, closures, quarantines. Do you have a plan B? I haven't even gotten to your plan E like they have, but do you have a plan B for your business? Are you trying to figure it out now? Because frankly, if you're trying to figure it out now, you're a bit behind the eight ball. That's what this video conference, this YouTube live is for me to help you kind of accelerate that learning curve and put some strategies in place. But also, you want to make sure this doesn't happen to you again. That's the great lesson behind all of this. I made a shift in my business model a little over a year ago. My wife and I were on vacation with the kids, and we're just kind of sitting around thinking, our oldest is going to be off to college in less than 3 years. We only have 3 more summers with her. Our youngest, we got 4 more. That's it. That's not a lot of time. If you added up the number of weekends, that's like less than 200 weekends total before she's legally an adult and off to college. And at that moment, it was just kind of an aha. I realized that I wanted to be home more, not be traveling, not speaking everywhere, not having coaching clients all over the country, but to do more locally. So I needed to shift my business. Maine's a small state. There's not a huge amount of money in the state of Maine. So I needed to be able to work remotely and do more things remotely. So I really doubled down on building my online membership community. If you're interested in joining that, you can check that out at yesterdaysunderdog.com. And I really doubled down on virtual coaching and building things where I could operate remotely and I didn't have to travel. And that served me well a year ago in that I was able to get to all my kids' games, coach my younger daughter's basketball team this year, the rec season and the school season, and make sure I didn't miss anything. So I was well positioned for what's happening right now in that I already moved my business model more online. If I have a Wi-Fi connection, I can work. My business makes money while I sleep. So I want you to think about how you can pivot, how you can shift your business model and do that for yourself and for your team. Because here's the thing that you'll find with your team is absent any leadership, your people will default to doing nothing. There are a lot of people, quote, working at home right now. I saw a great image one of my friends posted on Facebook. This working at home thing is going great was the caption. It was just a dude sprawled out on his couch with the remote. He literally had the remote control laying on his chest. He was sound asleep in front of the TV. I think that's a lot of America right now. If we're not literally sound asleep, people are kind of figuratively sound asleep, mailing it in. Maybe not necessarily the self-employed, but I call them indoor cats. People who work for companies, indoor cats. They just collect a paycheck. They don't have to go out and hunt and eat what they kill. But yeah, I think this is an opportunity for you to stop watching CNN and the news and build your business and pivot. There's the old expression, nothing bad happens to a marketer. So how can you turn this into a marketing moment? I don't want to get political, but I do want you to take notice of what's happening in the media with our president. Some people will be triggered that I said he was our president, but okay, with the president of the United States. So the economy has been thriving. It's been booming the entire time he's been in office. And we just saw stock market plummet because of this pandemic. So what has he done? He's changed his messaging. He referred to himself. And you can dislike Trump all you want. This isn't a political statement. It's what can you learn by watching other leaders? Sometimes it's what not to do. Many would argue he's a cautionary tale on what not to do. I think this is simply a great example for business leaders. He's changed his messaging. He has referred to himself now as a wartime president. And his war is this global pandemic. And that is the enemy. Not Russia, not China, not another country, not ISIS, but this pandemic. And why has he done that? Because never in the history of our country has a, quote, wartime president ever not gotten reelected. So I share that with you because you need to shift your mindset and kind of change your messaging to your audience as well, in a way that is going to be favorable for you, right? So, and really what I'm referring to is having forward intent in your business. Number one, don't stop investing in your education. And number two, don't stop working. And certainly, number three, which really ought to be number one, is don't stop communicating with your customers, with your prospects, with your audience. People tend to become very insular. I always mispronounce that word, insular, and sort of curl up in their shell during times like this, during crises, and under communicate internally with your own teams. Like I'm seeing it with some of my clients and their employees. And I'm encouraging people to actually be more transparent and over communicate. Be more transparent, over communicate with your audience, because that's what people need at a time like this. And I think that we need to be prepared now and then also be positioned for when things come back. And what I'm about to jump into with you will help you do both of those things. Okay. But first of all, you got to think about what you want, not what you don't want. We talked about playing to win versus playing not to lose. And part of that is simply going to be associating with people who have the right mindset and not associating with people who are negative, people who are doom and gloom. That is not going to serve you well. It's not going to serve your business well or your customers. It's simply not going to help you. And you need to eliminate that which won't help you and won't serve you well. I'll save for last after the Q&A. I've just made a list of some personal things you can do that will be helpful for you. I think the biggest thing you can do is continue to focus on the right things. And that's right now, really being creative. You have an opportunity to create and reinvent at a time when, if this were any other time, you would be too, quote, busy to really kind of create and do things differently. Right now, there are companies that are thriving. I have a list here. It's kind of a lengthy list, but just to give you an example of, like not everything is bad. Not everything is all doom and gloom. Think about it. There's toilet paper shortage. Bidet manufacturers are going to be making money. Products made in the USA, because now there's a stigma against China, and so much of our supply chain is coming from China. Even if there wasn't a stigma, we're trying to stimulate our own economy, and to invest in products made in the United States is going to be hugely important. A couple things never go in the tank when there's a recession or a depression, and that's vices. So you think about alcohol companies, Netflix, movie theaters. Well, social distancing is kind of limiting movie theaters, but think about all the vices: cigarettes, tobacco, alcohol, porn, Netflix, Hulu, Roku, television. All those things are thriving right now. Online, things like Zoom, Skype, YouTube, which we're on right now, Slack, project management online, DocuSign, any kind of online education platforms as well are thriving, and they'll be thriving not just right now, but beyond this. Delivery services, FedEx, UPS, all these companies, like they haven't come to a grinding halt. Pharma, things like not just big pharma, but Walgreens, CVS, vitamin supplement companies, home testing kits. There's apparently a coronavirus home testing kit. I'm not sure if it's legit or snake oil. So I'm not even going to mention the company by name, but hand sanitizer companies. I think a big thing you'll also see are those sensor things that you put on faucets, paper towel holders, doors, like hands-free technology is going to be booming. Sinks, toilets, doors, all that hands-free technology. Medicine made in the US, ventilators, cleaning supply. Like there are companies that are flat out thriving. Video gaming, I'm sure all your kids, when they're done with their online school, are video gaming. Some of those doomsday prepper sites are probably going gangbusters right now. Um, Truck drivers drive through grocery stores where you can order online. I'd love to see it come back to drive-through movie theaters as a quick aside. I just thought those were the greatest things in the world back in the day. Home gym, online fitness, webcam, professional disinfecting and cleaning services like the guy I mentioned I bumped into in the restaurant. Um, Virtual reality. I mean, there are so many things. And so if you're looking to invest, I'm not a financial advisor, but those certainly seem like attractive things that I might want to invest in. But there are opportunities that abound. So I'd love to give you now some strategies, the things you can do, and then we'll jump into a little Q&A. We're 26 minutes in. I want to keep this under an hour. I think ways that you can help those around you in business. Number one is any way you can spend money locally, do that. So much of what people buy on Amazon is made overseas, or simply if you're buying from a third party, Amazon, and trust me, as an author who used to have his books on Amazon, I speak from experience. They've cut the margin so much that resellers make very little. So anything you can do locally, spend your money locally, that'll be reciprocated with you. One of the things that I am doing this week is, and I don't need to do it right now, I'm choosing to do it right now to help a local business get an influx of cash and stay busy and keep people employed, is I'm sending my snowblower and my lawnmower out for servicing. As a matter of fact, the company that I use, this outdoor power company, is going to come pick it up at the end of my driveway. And when they're done with it, they will drop it back off. Could I wait until the spring? Because it's still kind of technically winter up here in Maine. Sure. But it's not going to snow for a while. I can send my snowblower out now to help them out. And I don't need to cut my grass probably until May. So I can send my lawnmower out. Those are two things that need to be done anyway. But I'm going to help them have an influx of cash and keep their people busy. And it's something they're actually also advertising, coincidentally, for people to do that now. So they're turning adversity into advantage. They're being proactive. They're staying on offense, not defense. And look at different ways you can do things like that locally. And start, another thing you can do if you're so inclined, and I know this is not necessarily to help you, but it's to help others. I think that's important to maintain that sort of mindset as well, is start planning ahead. If you have an event, put down a deposit for something kind of post-crisis that you'll be doing. Holiday party maybe, in December, something back to school related, later in the summer. Put deposits down now because you have no idea how much that will help many, many small business owners. I read a statistic the other day, I think it was either in the Times or in Bloomberg News, that said most restaurants, like mom and pop owned, are one payroll cycle away from shutting their doors permanently. That's how tenuous and how fragile things were before all of this. And with that in mind, that's really caused me to kind of look at how I can help some of my local fellow small business owners, in the service industry, coffee shops, restaurants, that kind of thing. Example I saw was many of these restaurants are moving towards delivery because they can't serve, in store. They've had to pivot. Meals done for you. There's a restaurant right on Main Street in my hometown, Louis, and they're doing meals done for you. And they post a new menu, like here's the menu of the night: chicken parm, pasta, bread, whatever it is. Here's the menu of the night, and here's how much it'll cost to get like a big kind of tinfoil platter of this food. And they will deliver it for you, or you can pick it up outside there. And it's not something they normally offer, but they realized it had to change. So as you're listening, hopefully maybe you're taking notes and can maybe you're taking notes, and you can kind of think like, what's my version of that? How can I make a subtle shift that'll allow me to keep people employed, keep the lights on, or keep revenue flowing? Another company. And I love giving local examples, local small business owners, not big corporate entities that have plenty of money and shareholders, and the local little guys, the underdogs, like the rest of us. There's a gelato place in Portland, and they have like a freezer truck, kind of like those big Schwann's freezer delivery trucks. They have a gelato delivery van, and they will you can order online, pay online, and they will deliver gelato to your door. And they're doing a cool thing. For every order over $50, they're giving you a $5 gift card, which gets you, as opposed to just saying, we'll give you $5 off. They're giving you a $5 gift card. Why? Because it gets you coming back in there, or reordering when they open up again, reordering with another online order. They're incentivizing you. And, if you have good margin built into whatever you sell, product or service, you can afford to do that same thing. How can you incentivize people to come back? That's always important, but it's probably never been more important than right now, to make buying from you a habit, right? One of the questions I got, I'll answer now, is if you could start your business over and do it completely, would you do it differently? And if so, what would you do? And my answer is, I would start a business where someone ordered a physical product that they would run out of, would need to be replaced, and they would need to reorder with some frequency. You don't wear out a book. I would have a product that you need to reorder. And, my version of that is having a service that's a continuity program, my membership community. But yeah, if I had a do-over, if I had a mulligan, so to speak, I'd create a physical product that needed a healthy replacement cycle. And so that answers that. Another opportunity for you, kind of like the delivery service and takeout meals, is private home training. If you're showing no symptoms, your client showing no symptoms, you could do, in-home training. Personal training would be an example. That's one of the contingency plans my trainer has, is to be able to, go from home to home and offer a personalized in-person service. Assuming we're not put completely on lockdown. Virtual training is another option. How can you do some virtual training? It might not necessarily immediately be paid work, but it might be prospecting. How can you offer a virtual training? Like, in a way, what I'm doing right now, I'm giving away in the hopes that you'll see the value and you will want to either hire me for coaching, buy a book, join my membership community. Shameless plug. If you're interested in that, it's a $49 a month subscription. You can check that out at yesterdaysunderdog.com. The price is going to go up very soon to $99 a month. And if you're not on my electronic newsletter, by subscribing at coachbrew.com, you'll get a sample of what that monthly premium newsletter looks like, immediately delivered to your inbox as soon as you subscribe. So you can go there. But yeah, there are so many different options right now on what you can do to pivot a little bit. There is I'm trying to find the article. I want to pull it up. I saw it on CNN. It's a company called Gorilla Tacos, and they're selling emergency taco kits, which is the coolest thing. And it comes with not just tacos, like your meat, your accessories, condiments, like the guac, the diced onions, the cheese, and all that. It also comes with 30 eggs and 4 rolls of toilet paper. So think outside the box. It might not be something you normally sell, but something you can, create as an add-on, a sweetener, if you will, to kind of sweeten the deal for people. How many people need toilet paper? Everyone. especially right now. There's apparently a national shortage. Some places don't have any on the shelves. So how can you get creative? One of my colleagues is launching a new book, as am I, and he's taking pre-orders already. And for everyone who pre-ordered last week, they automatically got a free box of toilet paper. Talk about timing. I think great marketers are great opportunists. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean it in a facilitative way. How can you be a great opportunist? What can you do to help people? And I think that, how can you provide online training or do something virtually for your clients? Shout out to my friend Bobby Corser. He DJs at a nightclub, and obviously with social distancing and the quarantine, that is closed. But what he's doing is he's hosting a virtual dance party, and he's going to spin some records, and people are going to go on Zoom video conferencing and dance, have drinks at home, and listen to his music. But what's that do? It keeps him and his business, Bushwhackers Nightclub, top of mind with people when they can't be there. Because then when they can return, they will. And I'm here to tell you right now, if you're not staying top of mind with your audience, with your current or prospective customers during a crisis, you're not going to be top of mind after the crisis. So I would encourage you, over communicate, don't under communicate. One of the questions I received, I'm kind of mixing in some of the Q&A right now. Here it is. Where is it? All right, that's not working. Now my email's down. Talk about technical difficulties. I think that staying top of mind is going to be huge. Do you have an email list? Do you have an email marketing service? If you don't, this should be paramount to get one. Start one now and start communicating with your people, because that is huge. Just trying to pull up this question I got. And okay, so here we go. This is from Brian, who emailed in from Las Vegas. My client, software testing provider, thought this would be a great week to get in front of people and demo the product that fell flat like a lead balloon. Many of our customers are large telecoms or construction companies for those telecoms. I can tell they want nothing to do with us right now. Some guys are making this as an unofficial vacation. You can kind of tell. We talked about that earlier. Absolutely. Sadly, a lot of people are doing that. And some others are seriously busy with keeping the network running, et cetera, et cetera. But it seems no one wants to do business as usual right now. That's a fair assessment. We are, of course, doing housekeeping, et cetera. But any thoughts you might have? I have a few thoughts. Let me just kind of finish his sentence here, or his question. I think we should go with the flow and respect the customer. If they don't want to hear from us, maybe a message stating that we are prepared to fully support them with speed once business returns to normal. I think that's an important message. Maybe should we do more video offerings? Seems like it's important to not antagonize customers right now. That's a great question, Brian. And here is my advice to you. And this is my advice to everyone who's listening, because I don't think this is in any way an industry-specific issue or challenge. I think this has no boundaries. But to create a marketing/communication promotional schedule, and yes, it's marketing and promotional, but it's also communication that has frequency, consistency, and is something that your prospects and customers look forward to and can look forward to. You had mentioned you don't want to antagonize customers. Absolutely. No one wants to antagonize customers. If they don't want to hear from you, they can ignore your email. They can delete. However, if you communicate in a way that it's something they look forward to, then you never run the risk of antagonizing them. If you're a resource and you're a solution and you do it in an entertaining way that no one else does, they're going to look forward to your messages. They're going to look forward to your emails. If I don't send my newsletter out, it used to be on Mondays, and then I moved it to Tuesdays. I get people email me to yell at me, like, where's my newsletter? Why didn't I get it? I look forward to this thing. I read every single one. Are you okay? What's going on, Brew? And that tells me that, like, my marketing and my promotional calendar and my communication is actually well received. So I like to use the term infotainment. And if you can be infotaining with your customers and your prospects, that's gold. That's better than gold. They will look forward to hearing from you. What do I mean by infotaining? You kind of have to hide the medicine in the candy, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, as a society, we love to be entertained. We don't like to be educated. Yeah. Most of America doesn't read anymore, for intellectual or even for pleasure. Reading is not a popular pursuit anymore. So much because they can easily watch a cat video, look at pictures of food on Instagram, kind of junk food, digital junk food, if you will. But how can you be entertaining and give them something to look forward to? It could be, a cartoon, a funny video that's related to your business, your industry, or just something, that you send out on a Monday that makes them laugh and gets their attention, and then transition or pivot within your message to how it can be a service to them. Share a fun fact, give them a tip, something that is industry specific that they say, well, wow, why haven't any of our vendors mentioned this or shown this to us or taught us that? But you definitely have to hide the medicine in the candy. I love using the example of, like, how do you feed medication to your dog? You have to wrap it in, a piece of cheese, wrap the tablet in like a slice of ham or roast beef to get them to eat it, or some peanut butter. You got to hide the medicine in the candy with people too. So I think that's how you don't antagonize them. And I realize that's a long answer to a short question. Hope it was helpful, not just for you, Brian, but for everyone who's tuning in and wondering the same thing. I think you need to have a consistent message, and it needs to be something people look forward to. You'll never have to worry about wearing out your list, unsubscribes, or people accusing you of being antagonistic and salesy. There's always going to be an offer in one of my emails. I'm usually promoting a book, my membership community, an upcoming event I'm speaking at. There's always going to be an offer in my email, but there's always going to be something hopefully entertaining and definitely informative. There is no question about that. So you can do the same. It's just finding a creative outlet to do that. If you're great on video, YouTube's for you. If you're more of a writer, do a newsletter, whether it's print, a blog, or an email marketing service, do that. If you don't have a lot to say, lists, a top 10 list, a tip list like that would be something that would match your personality. So you don't want to do something like that you hate or you're not good at, because that'll come through loud and clear to your audience too. So if you hate video, or you're horrible at video, or you don't like to talk, a video or a podcast, probably not the best move for you. So try and match what you use to your personality. That's my best advice to you. A couple other questions and a couple other strategies I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to give you another strategy here that I think is really interesting, and just sort of how people are pivoting. There are a lot of bookstores that have been struggling. Barnes and Noble, the big corporate behemoths, the big box retailers have kind of eaten the small independent stores, not just in books, but the Walmarts of the world have and the Home Depots have taken out a lot of the small mom and pop shops. But what also has happened is a lot of authors, like myself, have lost income from canceled book tours, speaking engagement fees, honorariums, workshops, things like that. And in an effort to kind of replace that sense of community, these independent bookstores are hosting, Instagram Live, Zoom chats, CrowdCat, in the store via Skype places, a facilitated conversation with the author. So I think you can probably have facilitated conversations, with a vendor, for your customers, with an industry expert, for people who, when they are ready to buy, you can have an offer for them. They may not buy, but when they are ready to buy, they're going to remember that you're a resource at this time when other people weren't. I think simply by showing up and being consistent, you will elevate and separate yourself in a way that is uncommon. I think that it's really, in many respects, that simple. Positive something's better than a negative nothing. Next question comes from Adam. He wants to know how to balance compassion with the bottom line. For example, I'm assuming he is a property owner, apartment buildings, I'm guessing. You have to pay your rent even though you have no income. Okay. How do you navigate that? Let's break that down. So the example he gave is someone who waits tables, someone who works in the service industry, has no income. They just toe the line and say, you got to do this or you're out, or, do you have some compassion? And, personally, I think if you're in a position to help people that are in that industry, which has really been kind of brought to its knees, no fault of their own, do so. That's karma. And sometimes compassion is your best marketing. It really is. Never mind the fact that you'll sleep better at night, helping your fellow man or woman. And just not just saying, hey, I'm going to give you, a waiver. Like, you don't have to pay your rent this month. I'm going to extend some charity to you. I think charity for a lot of people is really humiliating. Floating someone alone is very different than simply giving someone charity. And what I mean by that is they get to maintain their dignity and their self-respect if they accept a loan or they accept extended terms to pay their rent in 60 days or 90 days, as opposed to 30 days at the end of the month or the first of the month. So to be able to offer them a loan allows them to maintain their dignity at a time when their self-esteem is already pretty damaged because they've lost their job. And so often, we associate who we are with what we do. And when we're not at work, that can be personally damaging. Never mind the fact that it creates a lot of anxiety for people. So if you have the ability to extend some goodwill, through different terms, but make it very clear that, it's sort of a loan. It's a loan of sorts. It's not a gift. That will allow them to, maintain their dignity and a level of kind of self-respect. I hope that's helpful. I hope that makes sense. The next question was also from Adam. How do you stay motivated and on task in a world that's more distracting as ever? It really is. And I can tell you, this is how I stay motivated and on task when there isn't hashtag stay at home, when there isn't self-quarantine, when there isn't social distancing. It's simply my morning routine. I wake up I go to bed at the same time every night, or close to it. I wake up at the same time every morning. And the first hour of my day is spent without technology. I don't check email. I don't go on social media. My first hour of the day is spent quiet, contemplative thought. Let's see if I can find this. Bear with me. I'm looking at my desk drawer. This will answer the question much better, though. I have an idea journal. It's simply, I use these Muji pens. Shout out to the Japanese company Muji, and these little notebooks. and they fit in the back of a pants pocket, jeans pocket, and super convenient. I travel everywhere with one of those to jot ideas down. My goal is to get 10, 20 ideas every day, creative things that can help me move the needle on my business, creative things for my personal life or family. But I spend that first hour in quiet, contemplative thought. I don't spend it planning my day. My day's actually planned the night before. So I would encourage you to really drill down, take a close look at, put your routine under a microscope. And, for those of you in my membership community, there are resources, productivity resources, a whole productivity resource folder on the membership site that will help you plan your day, plan your week, plan your month, a promotional marketing calendar, a ton of those resources that you can use now to help get a little more clarity and motivation and eliminate distraction. And the other reason for doing that, besides when you wake up, you're most creative. I'll sit down, have my coffee, jot notes in my idea journal, and walk the dog, if it's nice out. So besides all of that, what it also does is it immediately, from the time my feet hit the ground and I get out of bed, it puts me in a proactive stance and not a reactive stance. If you are looking at your phone, you are looking at someone else's agenda. Your email inbox largely tends to be a to-do list for other people's agendas. Not for you, for other people. So to be proactive and puts you on offense, not on defense. When you're reactive, you're on your heels. When you're proactive, you're moving forward. You're on the balls of your feet. You're in an athletic stance, so to speak. And you control your schedule. You know where you're going. When you're on defense, think about it in sports. When you're on defense, and let's say you're in basketball, lacrosse, soccer, whatever sport, and you're guarding the ball carrier, you have no idea where he's going. He knows where he's going, or she knows where she's going, but you don't. You're literally on your heels. They're attacking. You're on defense. So how can you take a proactive stance? The other thing I do that helps me stay motivated and reduce distraction is, and this is all analog. I don't do this digitally on my notes app or Evernote in my iPhone. I do it, on paper. What you can do is simply have a gratitude journal and a success journal. And this might be a shameless plug. Again, hang on. There's an app for that. It's my daily game plan. And simply, there's a gratitude journal at the top of it. And then a success journal at the bottom on the left-hand side. And there's a calendar on the right-hand side. So you control your agenda, but you also can write down 5 things you're grateful for, 5 people you're grateful for. And don't simply leave it at that. Reach out to them. I send postcards every day, or handwritten notes, or a text. I prefer to make it a handwritten note to a text. I prefer to pick up my phone and call someone to sending an email, and reach out directly to people. You'd be shocked at how little high-touch communication people get. It's easy to shoot a text, and it's impersonal, but it doesn't take any more time to send a handwritten note. You have a bunch of pre-stamped postcards, and you just jot a note down. Send it to 5 people that did something to help you. Show your appreciation. So I think it's a great way to stay motivated. We're in a grateful mindset, Adam. It's impossible, to have negative thought. You can't hold 2 thoughts in your brain at the same time. So when we're grateful, we can't be negative. When we're thinking something positive, I don't mean Pollyanna positive. I mean like really positive. Negativity can't invade that space. When there's a void, negativity will fill it though. So that's how you stay motivated, is you consciously and intentionally fill the void at every opportunity. I think a great way to stay motivated at the end of the day is to just jot down, I call it 3 by 5. What are 3 wins you had by 5 p.m.? Or, if you do shift work or your workday doesn't end at 5, by the close of business for you, whatever's your close of business. What are 3 things that you can say you succeeded at, no matter how small. What are 3 things that you're successful with today by 5 o'clock? And you're literally jotting them down. I use my daily game plan, but you're jotting them down, and then you are physically closing the book. You're physically closing the book and putting it away for the day. That way you're not taking work home with you, literally or figuratively. And I think that helps you stay motivated and stay on task. When you're at work, you're at work. When you're at home, you're at home. Now, it's tougher because we're all working from home now. So I think you need to be even more intentional. Have a dedicated workspace. Don't just work at the lazy boy recliner in front of the TV, or the dining room table where you also eat, or the kitchen table, where you have husband, wife, kids floating in and out. Have a dedicated workspace. When you're in there, you're working. When you're not, you're not. Okay. Hope that was helpful. The last question that Adam had 3 questions. Last one was how to avoid a general malaise or depression about what you feel you've lost. So Adam is a coach, and he lost his season this spring. He coaches a spring sport. So how do you fill the gap of one of your biggest passions when it's been taken away? And this kind of takes us into kind of out of the business realm and into the professional realm. So I think there's a couple things you can do. Number 1, you can re-engage or start a hobby. I think it's natural that we all sort of mourn the loss of something, but give yourself a cutoff date or a cutoff time, or if it's something that pops into your mind during the day, just say, okay, what time is it? It is 4:03. Right at 4:05, I'm gonna stop the woe is me. I'm gonna stop the worry and kind of the funk that I've allowed myself to get in. Give yourself like a hard stop. This is when it stops, and here's what I'm going to do at 4:05. So I think that's one thing. But re-engaging in a hobby, things that bring you joy, or just starting a new hobby. I love to shoot my bow. Because of social distancing, I can't take my bow and go down to the range. Fortunately, I bought a target, so I can still shoot in my backyard. My backyard hasn't been canceled. You can see over my shoulder, I have a guitar. I was taking guitar lessons a little over a year ago, and I really struggled with it. And I found excuses. I didn't have time to do it. Oh, well, now I have time. Can I go to my instructor and take lessons? No, but you can take online music lessons. Just about anything that you want to learn or you enjoy doing, there's a tutorial on YouTube, right here on YouTube. There's a tutorial for you. Woodworking, crafting, music, the arts, anything. How to write a book, how to start a podcast, how to build a website, right? So I would say fill that void with something you really enjoy. That's a close second, and do as much of that as possible and make it something that you actually look forward to and you can reward yourself with. If I get 4 hours of work done this afternoon at 4:30, I'm going to go fishing, because fishing hasn't been canceled. You can sit out on a lake or a stream by yourself. That's great social distancing. And it's also analog. It's creative thought. It's not a device that you use. I'm very big into doing analog things today. So I hope those answers have been helpful for you, Adam. A couple more questions I want to get to. Michelle is asking on the YouTube live chat, what are your top 3 strategies for staying focused on client projects during this time? I sort of touched on that answer a little bit, I hope, already. But in terms of top 3 strategies for staying focused, I'm a big believer in over-promising and over-delivering, not under-promising and over-delivering. I want to over-promise and I want to over-deliver on that. So I think if you can take a look at what you promised the client, when you promised you'd get it to them, over-deliver on what you promised, and then over-deliver on the arrival, the delivery date, literally, of that project. That in and of itself is going to create more of a sense of urgency for you. to make sure you get it done. Don't have any excuses, and how you can stay focused on that project. Set a timer. I just have like a little, hang on, don't go anywhere. I'll show you. I keep a little kitchen timer on my filing cabinet, and I just set the timer, whether it's for half an hour, 50 minutes. I work in cycles. I don't just sit in front of the computer for 2-3 hours. I don't even sit in front of it for an hour. What I will do, with the exception of this video right now, what I will do is I'll set it for 50 minutes. And at the 50-minute mark, I'll get up, I'll get a drink of water or coffee or whatever, a snack, walk the dog for 10 minutes, and then come back in and kind of reset and sit back down. The technical term for doing this is oscillating. You think of like a fan that oscillates. It doesn't stay on one task forever. It shifts and pivots a little bit. And I think that helps you reset your concentration and stay fresh, Michelle. So create that sense of urgency, really over deliver, especially at a time right now. People are getting lazy. They're taking their foot off the gas. They're under delivering. And you really have an opportunity to shine like no other by doing that. And then also take care of you by setting boundaries. I'm going to work for 50 minutes, take a break, and then jump back into it. And I think you'll find that you work better, you get more done in that time, and you stay more focused. I think everyone works harder when there's a scoreboard. And part of a scoreboard is the clock, literally looks like that. You're on the clock, and that does something for your motivation and your focus. So I would say that is a great tactic to employ. I want to leave you now as we wrap up with just a couple personal things that I think would be very helpful for you. One of which is something I'm going to do, and I will invite you to. If you're on my email list, you'll be getting this email. If we're connected on social media, you'll be hearing about this too. I'm going to be hosting some virtual happy hours. Literally 5 o'clock at the end of the workday, 5 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to pour a cocktail or just have a cup of coffee, and I encourage everyone to bring a drink with them, any kind of drink, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. This is my Starbucks cup. We actually got a green juice in it right now. But at 5 o'clock, we're going to pour a drink, and we're just going to have a little creative time. If you want to host your own virtual happy hour for your friends or your colleagues, certainly do that as well. It doesn't need to be nightly. It could be once a week. I belong to a virtual happy hour that's once a week on Thursday nights. But it's an opportunity for you to get your family, friends, colleagues together, do a video chat. You'll definitely be socially distanced, but you'll be connected. You can share best practices, failures, successes. My only caveat with that would be don't make it a bitch session. If someone's going to have a complaint, they also need to present a potential solution and bounce that solution off of the rest of the group and let them give feedback. So utilize a support system. The other thing you can do, something my neighbor and I do, is he and I have like the nicest neighbors where I live here. And he and I go for walks, and whether we're talking about work, family, school, with kids, whatever, we just go for walks and we chat. Sometimes we'll bring a cup of Starbucks, but we're going to go for socially distanced walks. I'm going to walk on one side of the street. He's going to walk on the other, and we're going to talk to each other and be 6 feet apart. But we're good friends, and to be a support network for one another. You could do the same thing. I had already mentioned quality work over quantity work, take frequent breaks, work smarter, not harder. Number 3 is a hobby. I answered that for Adam's question. Start a hobby, re-engage in a hobby, some sort of passion project. One of the things that I'll share with you, a little failure that I had. Not necessarily failure technically, but because of the timing, this project has been put on hold. So in that regard, it's sort of a failure. But a business partner of mine, Gabriel Klingman, he and I have started a seminar business. It's called Top Secret Seminars. You can go to topsecretseminars.com, check out the website. But we're literally doing professional and personal development seminars in very unique places. BYOB, it's not your typical boring business conference or seminar. And we started strategizing this in January and preparing to launch in March. And then this pandemic happened. Things got canceled. Social distancing has taken place. And we're going to have to put that on hold. So what are we doing in the meanwhile? We're helping each other prepare for the launch of our new books. And so it wasn't a total loss. It's just something's been postponed, but we filled that with something else. So have a passion project. That's sort of a passion project for me. And it's business related. The other thing I think you should do is lighten the mood. Find a way to lighten your mood. And here's what I mean by that. Music heals. Music is very therapeutic. Lots of your favorite musicians, because they can't tour, first of all, they're being financially, they've had the baseball bat taken their kneecaps financially, so to speak, because they don't make their money selling 99-cent downloads on iTunes. There's no profit there. It doesn't scale enough to be sustainable for them and their whole band. So what they've had to do is they've had to tour nonstop, it seems, and they sell merch. So if you got a favorite artist or two, buy some of their merch. That's where their money is made. That's where there's actually profit margin for them. But also what a lot of them have taken to doing, you can steal a page out of their playbook, is they're offering, at night, they're offering some through Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live, house concerts where they're literally sitting in their living room and playing some acoustic sets with themselves, some of their friends. I've listened to a different one every night this week, by major, my genre is country music, major country music artists. They're all doing this, every genre. So listen to some music to lighten your mood. And then also make yourself laugh. Laughter mitigates stress like very few things in this world. There's that old saying, laughter is the best medicine, because it's true. It's not just a cliche. It's not just the section in Reader's Digest. It's true. There are some fabulous comedy specials online. On YouTube, a couple of great ones are Blowing the Light by Giannis Pappas. And Andrew Schultz is another great comic who has made his specials available for free on YouTube. There's also some wonderful specials on Netflix, a variety of stand-up comics. Bert Kreischer's new special, Hey Big Boy, is a great one. Check out some comedy specials, because I'm telling you, if you can laugh, it's really going to help you manage your stress and anxiety. Never mind the fact that it's just music and comedy are great distractions. It's a great escape from reality for a little while. So that's number 4. Number 5, I already talked about. Maintain a gratitude journal and a success journal. I'm not going to rehash that. Number 6, this is the last one. I want to leave you with this. Maintain perspective. It is not a war. We're not going off to war. You're being asked to sit in your living room. You're being asked to not go to your office, not be stuck in your cubicle, not attend a meeting that could have been a freaking email. You're being asked to sit at your house in the friendly and comfortable confines of your home. Just about anything you need can be delivered, right? We are living in the most privileged, convenient, comfortable time in the history of our planet. And I think that's part of the discontent that people have had, is we've got it so good that we don't know what it was like to really struggle. So what we think is struggle is not struggle. Being stuck in a foxhole with, enemy gunfire coming at you, that's struggle, right? My dad was in the Air Force. He's a World War II veteran, served in World War II, Vietnam, Korea. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. He got shot down. He was 1 kill away from being an ace. It's 5. He had 4. He got shot down middle of the war and parachuted out of his P-51 Mustang in Germany and behind enemy lines. He waited until the very last second to pull the chute. So he was a harder target to shoot out of the sky as he's plummeting towards the earth. Pulled his parachute at the last minute. When he got on ground, he had to literally sleep during the day in haystacks and fields and farms, and try and run towards the border at night. He got caught. He was a prisoner of war. And I feel very fortunate that, number one, he survived, or I wouldn't be here. But also, number two, that I got to hear a lot of these stories of real hardship, of risk, of, this is what real stress and anxiety is, not knowing where your next meal is coming from, having to split a meal, with one of your fellow prisoners of war. And, they literally ate horsehead soup a lot of the time. It was freezing cold where they were, in the POW camp. And those are real struggles. If you're related to a Vietnam vet, someone who served in Korea, connect with some of those folks. Ask to hear their stories, because what that will be is it'll be instant perspective for you. Read a biography of a great, American leader, from generations past. You're going to hear stories of real hardship. What we're going through right now, the economy is going to rebound. Jobs are going to come back. Toilet paper will be back on the shelves soon enough. And this isn't real hardship. I try and remind myself of that. I'm fortunate that, my instant perspective is somebody I grew up with under the same roof, just, I feel very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. So with that in mind, if I can help you in any way, feel free to reach out to me. If you're not on my newsletter, the Daily Brew, it's called. It's not necessarily daily, but that's a catchy name, so I call it the Daily Brew. Go to coachbrew.com. The top of the page, you can subscribe. You'll get a free report automatically delivered to your inbox. It's called 12 Ways to Double Your Sales, Double Your Results. And it's also a sample of what my membership community is like. It's actually a monthly premium print newsletter that they get, among other things, but that'll give you a taste for what that's like. So hopefully I've been a great resource for you. I'm going to do more of these videos, as we continue. I call them quarantine streams, live streams. I know some people had trouble getting on, so I will make this replay available to everyone. And I hope you found it to be valuable, and look forward to staying in touch with you and communicating with you right here in the future. And take the time now to go do something for yourself, something you'll enjoy, that you'll find reinvigorating. Thanks again. See you real soon.